The year was 1961, when a new Chevy Impala cost just $2,600. Gas was 27 cents a gallon, and West Side Story was captivating audiences in theaters nationwide. The transistor radio had just become portable, changing how we consumed music forever. Now, let's dive into more incredible songs that define that unforgettable year. Elvis Presley stormed the charts with Surrender.
So, my darling, please surrender.
A passionate adaptation of the Italian classic Return to Sorrento. The King's management team specifically chose this track to sanitize his image after his military service. What many don't know is that Elvis initially resisted recording it, calling it old-fashioned garbage during early studio sessions. He later admitted it was one of his favorite recordings, proving that even the King himself didn't always recognize a hit when he first heard it. Ricky Nelson brought us Hello, Mary Lou.
Hello, Mary Lou. Goodbye, heart, sweet Mary Lou.
Though many fans don't realize he didn't write it. Gene Pitney penned this classic, selling it to Nelson when his own career hadn't yet taken off. Nelson, born into Hollywood royalty as the son of Ozzie and Harriet Nelson, used his family's TV show to launch his music career, a privilege most musicians of the era never had. Critics often dismissed him as a pretty boy trading on family connections, but this track showcased genuine musical talent that silenced many detractors. Gary U.S. Bonds gave us the party anthem, Quarter to Three. Recorded in such poor conditions that the song's fuzzy sound was initially rejected by radio stations. Producer Frank Guida deliberately created that muddied sound in a converted shower stall, claiming the acoustics would stand out on radio. The strategy worked, though Bonds, whose real name was Gary Anderson, later fought bitter legal battles over royalties, claiming he was swindled out of millions by management who exploited his youth and inexperience. Curtis Lee delivered the doo-wop classic, Pretty Little Angel Eyes.
Pretty little angel eyes, pretty little angel eyes, pretty little angel.
Co-written by a young Tommy Boyce before he became famous writing for the Monkees. Lee's career was tragically brief. He quit the music business shortly after this hit, frustrated by record company politics. The backing vocals on this track were performed by the Halos, who were never properly credited or compensated despite creating the signature sound that made the song instantly recognizable. If these songs bring back special memories, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. Share your stories. And if you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more nostalgic deep dives into the music that shaped our generation. The Marquis instrumental hit, Last Night, helped to establish Stax Records as a soul powerhouse. The band consisted primarily of white musicians playing black music in segregated Memphis, a controversial setup in 1961 America. The group included Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn, who later formed the legendary Booker T and the MGs. Last Night was originally recorded as a throwaway B-side, but became the label's first major hit when a local DJ flipped the record and started playing that instead. Shep and the Limelites created the emotional ballad, Daddy's Home.
Your daddy's home. Your daddy's home.
Fronted by James Shep Shepherd, after his previous group, the Heartbeats, disbanded. The song's message of return and redemption carried extra weight as Shepherd had served time in prison before this comeback hit. Tragically, Shepherd was found murdered in his car on the Long Island Expressway in 1970, a crime that remains unsolved to this day, cutting short a career that was finally gaining the recognition it deserved. Sam Cooke released Cupid.
Cupid, draw back your bow and let.
Showcasing his silky smooth vocals that would influence generations of singers. The inspiration came from a real-life encounter with a young actress on a movie set. Having transitioned from gospel to secular music, Cooke faced harsh criticism from his former religious audience, who accused him of abandoning his faith for his fortune. Behind the scenes, he was one of the first black artists to take control of his publishing and start his own record label, making him a music business pioneer whose business acumen matched his vocal talents. Ray Charles forever changed Unchain My Heart with his soulful rendition.
Unchain my heart, baby, let me be.
The song was purchased from composer Bobby Sharp for a mere $50 when Sharp was struggling with heroin addiction. Years later, Sharp successfully sued to reclaim his rights after getting clean. Charles recorded this during his controversial transition to ABC Records, where he demanded and received unprecedented creative control and ownership of his master recordings, revolutionary for any artist in that era, let alone a blind black performer challenging industry norms. The Miracles gave Motown its first million seller with Shop Around.
Better shop around. Oh, yeah, you better shop around.
Initially recorded as a bluesy track, Berry Gordy woke Smokey Robinson at 3 a.m., insisting they re-record it with faster tempo. Robinson, frustrated by the middle-of-the-night demand, reluctantly agreed. The revised version catapulted to success, though Robinson later admitted the incident was the first sign of Gordy's controlling tendencies that would eventually lead to conflict within the Motown family. The group's choreographed performances set a standard that all subsequent Motown acts were required to follow. The Everly Brothers delivered the deceptively simple Walk Right Back.
Tell me why you walked out on me.
Written by Sonny Curtis of Buddy Holly's Crickets. The brothers recorded only the first verse because Curtis hadn't finished writing the second verse yet, planning to come back later to complete it. When the single started climbing the charts, they had to rush release it as is. Behind their harmonious sound, Phil and Don's relationship was deteriorating rapidly, with disputes so bitter they would eventually refuse to speak to each other for over a decade, despite continuing to perform together. The Drifters released Some Kind of Wonderful.
That's some kind of wonderful. Anytime my little world seems.
During a period when the group had completely changed personnel from its original lineup. Music executives kept the name but replaced the singers multiple times, leading to lawsuits and confusion. This version featured Johnny Moore on lead vocals, the third different lead singer to front a version of the Drifters. The practice of treating the group name as a brand rather than a specific set of artists was common but controversial, often leaving original members destitute while others performed under their name. The Paris Sisters brought us the whispered intimacy of I Love How You Love Me.
I love how your eyes close whenever you...
Produced by Phil Spector before his Wall of Sound became famous. Lead singer Priscilla Paris was reportedly forced to sing so softly that she had to lie on her back in the studio to control her breathing properly. Spector's controlling behavior in the studio foreshadowed his later, more disturbing controlling tendencies in personal relationships. After this hit, the sisters tried repeatedly to break free from Spector's control, finding their career stalling. When they did. The Capris created the dreamy doo-wop ballad, There's a Moon Out Tonight.
There's a moon out tonight.
Originally recorded in 1958, but largely ignored until re-released in 1961. The group had actually disbanded when the song suddenly became a hit 3 years later after recording it, forcing them to hastily reunite. All 5 members had taken day jobs, convinced their music career was over, with lead singer Nick Santamaria working as a New York City taxi driver when he suddenly heard his voice on the radio. They received minimal royalties, despite the song's eventual classic status. The Fleetwoods delivered the haunting Tragedy. One of the few songs about teen suicide in an era when such topics were typically avoided. The group's clean-cut image masked tension behind the scenes as male member Gary Troxell was drafted into the Navy right at the height of their success, forcing the group to release recordings made before his deployment. The female members, Gretchen Christopher and Barbara Ellis, fought unsuccessfully for the right to continue performing under the group's name without him, highlighting the limited control women had in the industry. Ernie K-Doe scored the novelty hit Mother-in-Law, written by Alan Toussaint, who also played the piano part after K-Doe had thrown the song in the trash, deeming it worthless. Session musician Benny Spellman's distinctive bass vocals in the chorus created the song's memorable hook, though he was paid only his standard session fee for a contribution that helped define the song. K-Doe later became infamous for his outlandish claims, including repeatedly stating that his song was one of only 4 songs that would last forever. Is your favorite 1961 track making you tap your feet right now? Well, don't keep those memories to yourself. Hit that like button and share this video with your friends who appreciate real music from our generation. Leave a comment about which song brings back the strongest memories for you, or if you witnessed any of these artists in concert. Subscribe now so you won't miss the next volume in our musical time machine series. Ricky Nelson appears again with Travelin' Man.
I'm a traveling man, made a lot of stops.
Notable for being one of the first songs to use a world geography theme as a metaphor for romantic conquests. The song was originally intended for Sam Cooke, but ended up with Nelson through a stroke of luck when songwriter Jerry Fuller played it within earshot of Nelson's producer. Nelson recorded both this and Hello Mary Lou as a double-A side single, an unusual move that paid off with both songs becoming hits. His carefully crafted teen idol image concealed a deeply insecure performer who struggled with his transition to adult roles in both music and acting. Roy Orbison broke convention with Running Scared.
Just running scared.
A ballad that builds dramatically without ever using a chorus. Even more unusual, the song ends on a high note that Orbison wasn't sure he could hit consistently in live performances. His trademark dark glasses weren't initially a fashion choice. He'd left his regular glasses on a plane and was forced to wear his prescription sunglasses on stage. His preference for black clothing and stationary performance style contrasted sharply with the energetic stage antics of other rock performers, leading some promoters to initially doubt his ability to connect with audiences. Pat Boone took a dark turn with Moody River. A murder-suicide ballad that seemed at odds with his wholesome Christian image. The song represented Boone's attempt to update his sound as his career was threatened by changing musical tastes. Known for recording sanitized versions of R&B songs originally performed by black artists, Boone's career was built on making race music palatable for white audiences. He later expressed regret about his role in this practice, acknowledging that he benefited from a system that often denied recognition and royalties to the original artists. Jimmy Dean narrated the tale of Big Bad John.
Big John, Big John, Big John.
Drawing on his Texas roots for the spoken word country crossover hit. Few fans realized that Dean wrote the song in just over an hour while on a flight to Nashville for a recording session where he was short of material. The song's success helped to launch Dean's parallel career as a television personality, eventually leading to more recognition for a sausage company than his music. The song's masculine archetype reflected and reinforced gender expectations of the era, celebrating a vision of masculinity built on physical strength and self-sacrifices. The Dovells close our list with Bristol Stomp. Named after a dance popular among teenagers in Bristol, Pennsylvania. The group was discovered performing as the Brooktones at a Christmas party by Cameo Parkway Records executives. Their doo-wop sound was rapidly going out of fashion as the British invasion loomed on the horizon, and despite following this hit with You Can't Sit Down, the group never adapted to changing musical trends. Member Len Barry later found solo success with 1, 2, 3, effectively abandoning the group that had launched his career. So, as we close the book on Volume 4 of our 1961 musical journey, I'm reminded of how these songs provided the soundtrack during a time when America was changing rapidly. The Cold War was intensifying, the space race was heating up, and a new generation was finding its voice. These weren't just songs. They were the emotional markers of our lives during a pivotal moment in history. So, join me next time for Volume 5, and don't forget to share your memories in the comments below. This is your music, your history, and your community. See you next time.